Okay, back now and ready to get going. So I've got all the paints in here. It's still a little bit loose in there, but I've got some paper labelled up. We will try them out, and I have these colours here as well to try out too. I'm just trying to get this all on screen. And I've removed the sizing from these brushes so we can test them out with today's video. Let me just turn this little light on a little bit so we get a bit more. Yeah, there we go. That's a bit better. Okay, so I think I'm going to start with the long round brushes. I'm going to start with the larger one and see how that works. I'm not going to pre-wet the paints to begin with, just to see how they are. They seem to be reactivating pretty well, and these brushes seem to hold a lot of water, at least this large one does. Now let me go back onto the Jackson's listing for these paints. I just want to see what information they have on there for them specifically. Okay, so this is the yellow. The pigment is PY1, which typically isn't considered a very light fast pigment. It's not very common in watercolors, but like I said, this is more of a Gansai style paint. So there we go. And then we have the light green, which is an interesting mix of pigments. PBK7, so that's a black. PY1, which is the same as the yellow. And PG50, which is a cobalt green colour. It's quite a nice green though. The sketchbook I'm using is another one by Artway. It says there, I think it's called Artway 35, so it claims to have 35% cotton in the paper, but I don't necessarily notice a difference between this and other regular cellulose paper. Then we have olive green. This is PR101, PY97, and PB15, so that's like a red oxide. PY97, I think that's like a arylide yellow maybe, or something similar. And then PB15 is a phthalo blue. And again, this is a really nice olive green. It's a nice sort of muted, very natural sort of green. You can see these paints don't move much when you put them down in wet water, which is typical for like a Gansai type paint, I believe. So Gansai paints originate from Japan. It's more of a Japanese style watercolor. I'm going to switch to the smaller round from that travel set now and see how that works. And so they tend to have a slightly different binder and can be a little bit more gouache-like in their texture. And then we have dark green, which is made up of PB27, so Prussian blue, PR112, which I believe is a naphthol red, and PV55, which is some sort of violet pigment. I'm not sure about PV55 that much. I don't know too much about that one. That's a nice sort of foresty green type colour. I'll show you close-ups at the end. Then we have indigo, PB27, so Prussian blue again, PBK7, so it's that black pigment. I think PBK7 is ivory black if I'm not mistaken, or lamp black. And then PR112, so that naphthol red again. Sorry if you can hear any noises in the background. My cat is sat close to me licking himself, so if you hear any weird noises, I apologise. That's really nice indigo. If that dries like that, that's beautiful. Next up we have Prussian blue. That's just PB27. Oh wow, that's a really lovely bright blue. You may be wondering why I don't have any red or pinks in this set. That's because there are none. Jackson's currently has 20 colours for sale, and there isn't a single red, pink or orange colour. There's greens, yellows, blues, a couple of violets, earth tones, and then gold, silver, black and white. So there's no reds, no pinks at the moment. Okay, next up I'm going to try the dagger brush for the last couple. We have turquoise blue. So I tried to pick a collection of paints or colours that would be usable together as like a limited palette. That's a really nice turquoise blue. This is made up of PW6, so that's a titanium white. Oh, first little hair lost in this brush. It's not too bad. So that's PW white, titanium white, sorry, PW6, titanium white, PG7, which is a phthalo green, blue shade, PB15, which is that phthalo blue, and PG36, which is a cobalt cerulean type colour. Then next up we have a violet, and this one is not light fast because I can tell you straight off the bat it has a fluorescent pigment in it. So it has PB15, which is that phthalo blue again, and BR12, which is a fluorescent red pigment, I'm guessing, from the R. So I'm going to say that this one is not going to be light fast, which is absolutely fine because I've never planned on this palette being something I use for finished artwork or anything like that. It was always intended to be a like a sketchbook type paints. Okay, so I'll show you these ones up close while I read out what the Jackson's website has to say about these paints. So it says, this is a beautiful range of versatile traditional Japanese watercolors. These solid pan colors are richly pigmented and are highly responsive to a range of painting techniques, including Japanese style painting. Holbein Shin Gansai watercolors are traditional Japanese watercolors in a solid cake form. The range of 28 classic Japanese colors is made using carefully selected pigments and a traditional drying process to create highly responsive paint. The richly pigmented colors dissolve easily when water is applied and have a silky smooth application, ideal for Japanese style painting and watercolor techniques. Shin Gansai watercolors produce rich flowing washes as well as fine detail and can also be built up in subtle layers, making this paint incredibly versatile. Alright. So that's interesting, and I've just noticed on here it says due to trading agreements Jackson's are unable to ship these to the US and Canada, so apologies, I just realised that now. If you're in the US or Canada and watching this, you're not able to purchase these paints from Jackson's for some reason, due to their trading agreements, I assume, as it says. So I'm sorry about that, but hopefully you'll be able to find, there might be a local supplier in the US who sells these paints, I'm not sure. Because I don't live there. But that's the Shin Gansai paints by Holbein. I feel like they're drying pretty well. I think the violet was the most streaky of all of them going down, but I think overall they all went down quite nicely. The brushes that I used, the 3 that I used, were great. I'm going to try the flat brush now with these 3 paints. So I'm just going to put a little dab of each of these colours on the paper. There we go. That's the cadmium yellow pale, and then the transparent gold deep. You might see here I have my quinacridone gold comparison page, and I had 1 slot left, so I'm going to swatch this out and we'll see how it looks compared to the others. So let's do the cadmium yellow pale. It's a really lovely bright yellow. Okay. And then the transparent gold deep. May have not had enough paint. I mean, just by looking at that, and then these, I think it's pretty safe to assume this is trying to be a replacement quinacridone gold, but I'm going to swatch it out here. And alright, sorry about that, battery died. Alright, back again. Just going to quickly swatch out this Brown Madder by Rowney. Oh wow, that's a beautiful sort of blood red type colour. Reminds me a lot of like a Peroline Maroon. And that flat brush was quite nice as well to use. So that's those 3 colours. Alright, now I'm just going to swatch out the Winsor & Newton Transparent Gold Deep on here. Now it's not exactly the same sort of comparison because I had dried little blobs of paint that I painted from for the rest of these, but this is as close as we're going to get. So this is cotton paper that I'm swatching on here. Give the paint the best opportunity to really shine. The sizing at the edges of this paper has kind of gone a bit funny, so you can just ignore that a little bit, but for the most part you can get an idea. It's not dry yet, but you can definitely see how this is a good approximation of a quinacridone gold type colour. So we'll see what that looks like once it's dry as well. So I think that will give us a clearer idea. So the old Winsor & Newton formula uses the PR206, which is being discontinued, which is that Brown Madder pigment, which I don't think this is the same, or if it is, I think there's something else in there, because this is definitely a lot more red and darker than Brown Madder usually is. So I actually have the PR206 by Winsor & Newton in this little travel palette I put together. More about this another time, but I'll just quickly show you what that looks like compared to this one being labelled as Brown Madder by Rowney. You can see how this one's just brighter. I really like the long bristles on the 2 round brushes in this travel kit. So you can see the difference in that colour. Alright, so that's that one. The last thing we're going to do quickly is test out some watercolours on these 2 papers. So, like I said, these aren't marketed. This one in particular is not marketed as being a watercolour paper, so we shall see how it works. Just bring my giant water jar here. So I'm just going to randomly start swatching some colours. I mean, that's not doing too badly, to be quite honest. Let's try some granulating colours. So I've got Artemis here by Da Vinci. It's very similar to Moonglow. I don't think my Da Vinci video has come out yet. So if it hasn't come out yet, it should be coming out soon after this. Let's see about doing some wet and wet. So this one I think moves quite nicely in wet washes. That's not doing too badly. It's not bled through to the other side, so we'll see how these dry, and I can see some granulation coming through on this Artemis, which is like moon glow, as I said, and it should granulate. This is also a cobalt turquoise, which should, or cobalt teal, which should granulate as well, but it might not on this unsized paper, so we'll see. And that was lavender, and that was Mars yellow, I believe, from Daniel Smith. So we'll see how this dries. Try and find somewhere to pop that, there we go. And then we'll try this paper and see how this holds up to some wet washes. So how about we just lay down some clean water first. This one, like right on the front cover, says that it's been internally sized, so I'd expect this to be able to handle some level of wet media. So let's just go for this one. Yeah, I mean, I'd say this paper definitely can handle some water quite well. It is thin, but I mean, it's not expensive. It's not traveled through to the other side. It's definitely a bit like buckly, but it's already a little bit like bendy when it first came anyway. It doesn't have like a hard backing to the back of the pad. But it shows up granulation quite nicely. You can see it's coming out here in the greens. And you can see it a bit actually in the leaves down here with that super granulation green I've got going on. And even in the blues, the Denise's stormy blue, sorry, in the sky there as well. That's showing up quite nicely. And then here, again, that granulation in the Artemis is showing up beautifully as well. And yeah, it's not quite dry yet, but it hasn't bled through. I mean, no, it hasn't bled through. But it is very thin paper, so I can't imagine it would take too much before damaging the paper irreparably. But I think for light washes, like if you're doing little sketches, like line and wash type things, or just if you're planning on using it like a little journal and doing little doodles in it and stuff, I think that'd be quite fun. And I think this would be a great little practice pad if you want to practice in using 100% cotton paper. Like I said, it's not as thick, but I feel like because of the price, it's not too expensive either. It makes it a really low pressure sort of sketchbook, so I look forward to using this more as well. And yeah, oh, and here's that transparent gold deep compared to the other quinacridone golds. I'll hold this up here, and you can pause the screen and take a look at it, or take a screenshot, and then you can zoom in and see the different names on there. But the Winsor & Newton Quin Gold is this one, and this is the transparent deep gold deep, transparent gold deep, Winsor & Newton Quin Gold. So I think it's safe to say transparent gold deep is probably Winsor & Newton's new version of quinacridone gold. but that's my opinion. So let me know what you think down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it wasn't too long and rambly, but I'm going to do my best to get this out to you guys as soon as I can, so you can make the most of this Holbein sale at Jackson's if you would like to. Like I said, please see my links below. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys again soon. All right, take care. Bye.